what's going on YouTube? Mr. Football here, and today we're going to talk about how to choose football gloves. So if you're new to the game of football and you're looking into getting some football gloves, or if you've been playing football and you're going into a new position, you don't know what football gloves you should get, because there's a lot of confusing things out there. And I'm going to kind of just show you some examples. But here's kind of a common question I get. Someone will come up and say, on some of my glove videos, and they'll say, I play linebacker, should I use this glove? I play running back, or I play offensive line, I play defensive back. Like, what football glove should I get? So I've gotten a lot of those questions over the years. I've been doing football glove reviews. I've been doing football glove videos for a long time on this channel. But if you look at like a package of gloves here, I don't have these gloves with me anymore, but I just dug these out. They say battle receiver gloves. So would you just assume that this pair of gloves is only for receivers? You see like this Under Armour packaging. It says for skill players. Well, what's a skill player? All right, kind of confusing. Cutters no longer puts anything related to what position it is. They do have a fitting guide for back here, and we can kind of talk about that a little bit. But for the most part, football gloves are broken down into three categories. And everybody's going to fall into one of these three categories based on what glove you should get. It's all based on recommendations by the company that's producing these gloves and what they market the glove for. But for the most part, there are three main styles. All right, you've got your traditional receiver style gloves. What I call a receiver style glove obviously has the grip on the palms to assist in catching the ball and carrying the football. It has a soft back of the soft back of the hand, for the most part, where it's flexible. You don't really they allow your hands to have a lot of freedom. They're not padded, so that's a receiver glove, and that's like when you look at a package of gloves and you see these Adidas gloves, you would know that these are receiver gloves. Okay, the next category is padded receiver gloves, or what I've called in the past hybrid football gloves, because they have receiver style grip, just like what we talked about. Okay, and they are the grip on them is very similar to what you'd find on a receiver glove. However, these have padding. Okay, they have padding all along the back of the hand. And there are different reasons why you'd want a padded football glove as well. A padded receiver glove. Now, could receivers still use this glove? Absolutely. We'll get into all of those, possibilities here in just a minute. This is the Nike Superbad, and the Superbads are always been known for being kind of this hybrid style glove where they have receiver grip, but they're also padded on the back of the hand. Finally, we have lineman gloves, which is not really hard to define. You're an offensive lineman, you're a defensive lineman, you're going to fit into these gloves. These are the Nike D-Tac 5s. They have the D-Tac 6 out now, but these are the most current ones that I have on me. So like I said, you fall into those three categories. So let's talk about the positions that should be used at each one of those gloves. All right, so these are my recommendations as far as what position should use what style of gloves. So if we talk about receiver gloves, no padding on the back of the hands. This is obviously a receiver is the first person on there. Wide receiver, any type of receiver that you call yourself, slot receiver, does not matter. You are wearing these gloves. I think it's a no-brainer. Running backs could also wear these gloves. Even though we're going to talk about padded receiver gloves here in a minute, or more geared towards running backs, you could also wear these. For the most part, padded receiver gloves are always going to cost about $5 to $10 more than just your standard receiver gloves. On defense, corners, safeties, defensive backs, for the most part, can wear these gloves as well. All right, so that takes care of that category. Now the padded receiver gloves, as we'll talk about, okay, I've showed you guys on the back of the hand here, the padding that's along the back of the hand. It's not really restrictive, and it really depends on what style of gloves that you go for. As far as like what brand, but the Nike Superbad is probably like one of the most popular padded receiver gloves that are out there. And I think these work best as far as position-wise for running backs. For linebackers, I think linebackers could really utilize the ability to have receiver style grip as well as having padding on the back of the hand. So you got to think about it. Running backs and linebackers are pretty much almost the same position on different sides of the ball, and for the most time, like in the run game, they're meeting each other. So you would think that the gloves would be almost similar because they're making contact, with making a tackle or trying to shed a tackle, and so you'd want padding, to protect your hands as well as securing the football. So I think tight ends could also use these as well. Just for the fact that tight ends are they're obviously attached to the line of scrimmage and are going to be involved in the blocking game and maybe in the passing game as well, and a little bit of both because tight ends are pretty versatile, so they need to be able to block, and so they may need that lineman style of padding on the back, but maybe don't need a lineman glove. So like I said, with the padded receiver gloves, running backs, and if we include fullbacks, it's the same thing. It's the same position, except one guy is more blocking and obviously the running back is obviously carrying the ball. So just kind of think of it in your mind here. And a lot of this, you guys have probably, seen me and heard me talk about all this before, but I just want to get this out there for people that don't know. So like I said, padded receiver gloves, they're going to benefit for running backs, fullbacks, linebackers, obviously, of any style, outside, middle, it does not matter. And then I think tight ends could also use these as well. For our last glove, if we talk about the lineman, we talk about any type of lineman, offensive line, defensive tackle, defensive end, I think by far you should go with these gloves. Okay, not just these gloves, but lineman gloves themselves. Padded lineman gloves always fit better if you can't afford the lineman gloves that are out there because they do cost just a little bit more. If you can't afford them, go for something like the Super Bad. Okay, so like if you can't afford because sometimes, and I get that budgets, sometimes you just don't have the money to spend on a really nice pair of lineman gloves. There are cheaper lineman gloves out there, but just as an example, like the DTAC 5s are like $60, $65, something like that. So those are just, like I said, some examples, and I'm pretty simple with the lineman. Like you either have a lineman glove, or like I said, if you can't afford the lineman glove, the Super Bads or any style of hybrid glove are also a good alternative. They still have padding on the back. These just have a lot of padding, and they also have some lineman gloves will have padding on the front of the palm. Sometimes, obviously, they'll have padding on all fingers along the fingers and on the back of the hand. And then most of the time, some of these come up with a pretty good wrist strap as well. I hope this helped. It's kind of a video I wanted to get out there for people that didn't know or were kind of new to the game of football, as far as like what style of gloves you should look for based on what position you play. And obviously, if you get a pair of gloves and you change positions, it's really not that big of a deal because all gloves fit into these categories. If we had so many categories of gloves that this position has to use this and this position has to use this, it would be so confusing, and the football companies would make a lot of money off of us because we're gonna buy all these gloves because we might play all these positions. But for the most part, you need one pair of gloves that's gonna suit you and for your position. And like I said, I went through and ran down through that list of what each style of glove and what position should wear that style. So I want to thank you guys for watching this video, and be sure to subscribe if you've not subscribed yet, and turn on the notifications when new videos are released. They will be releasing every week, so just stay tuned for all those new videos that we've got coming out. I want to say thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.